Hey guys, and welcome to South Asian Wedded Life. I'm Amy Regeti, and today Srinu and I are going to be sitting down for a conversation that's been filling up the headlines and honestly a lot of hearts. We're talking about JD and Usha Vance, a Hindu Christian couple now living under one of the brightest spotlights in the world. But beyond the politics, beyond the noise, there's something truly human here. Two people navigating belief, marriage, and respect in a world that's quick to judge and slow to listen. And we're not here to take sides. We're here to shed light because as a Christian Hindu couple ourselves, 26 years in, we've lived the beautiful, messy, faith filled reality that comes with bridging two worlds. So today, we'll talk about their story and ours and what we've learned about love, respect, parenting, and the way faith can unite instead of divide. So stay with us. This one's really close to our hearts.
So, what brings us here today is specifically JD Vance and his wife Usha. So, Usha is got Indian background. Even though she was born and raised here in California, she's just like any other American, but her race and ethnic background is India. And more than that, I'm a little proud of it because she's got a Telugu background in her, and my background is Telugu too. So again, we wanted to discuss this because recently there was a news item that JD Vance made a statement about religion and all that stuff, and Amy and I got to talking about it, and we thought, okay, why don't we just expand a little bit on it and then share our own personal.
Right. I think the whole
Uh,
thing about him making that statement of him hoping that she's moved to hoping that she's moved to Christianity because of this free will statement. And, I think that part of that is being under such a microscope,
right.
and him being popped a question and him feeling like he needed to answer that as not to be questioned, that maybe he himself wasn't sure what they were doing. I think that kind of came out. I don't think that he didn't mean it, and I don't think he meant it the way that it came out. I think he simply meant it as they both have a common ground on what their beliefs are, and that doesn't hinder their ability to be a couple or parenting. Or I guess for a lot of us, when we move into that area, we don't think about it so much in the very beginning.
No, no, that's true. But you know what? You don't think we should just clarify before, like, put a disclaimer that it is nothing to do with politics, because I don't want people getting all worked up that we are either supporting this party or the other party. But so I just want to make sure that this is nothing to do with politics.
Right. I think this more has to do with the fascination, the fact that people are looking at the two of them as being not just an couple, but being a biracial couple and then raising their kids. And I think that we're in just such a hostile part of politics that this is one thing that we can kind of break down and give everybody something to talk about. But I think for us, the part where it resonated was that this is something that we deal with and have dealt with
Right.
every part of our relationship. So we can understand why the question would be asked. We get it all the time. Like people are like, oh, so how are you raising your kids? Now, granted, a lot of people who ask us those questions about like what we eat, how we're raising our kids, how do we live, those types of things. I think they're a little more old fashioned and traditional. Some of them are even just older. You're
Right, but
not
I think
getting
those questions, I think they're even more, actually, they're more relevant now. Now that we are seeing more fusion weddings, where we are seeing Indian American couples more than before.
right.
Like if you look at the number of weddings we've been doing, like 20 years back, we were just doing when we started doing Indian weddings. It's mostly both Indian couples,
Right.
but now we are noticing there are a lot of interracial couples. So obviously, these questions are very valid. Like, I remember when I was younger, my dad and my mom, they used to ask me, "Hey, if you married somebody out a different religion, what would your kids be? Are they going to be Christians or Muslims or Hindus?" I'm not never really put so much thought into it. Um,
Right. And they
yeah,
weren't even thinking out of the spectrum. Like, what if you marry someone
right.
who's not even in
That
the
was
same continent?
just a general question that they
She was
had as
thinking,
a
what if you married like a Muslim girl or like a Christian in India?
right,
She probably didn't even think at that time, what if you
that
just jumped
we
continents?
would end up here.
Yeah. So I think, again, I think that it's just more polarized because of who they are, because the fact that JD Vance is the vice president of the United States, because he is associated with Trump, right? He was his pick person.
Right.
And so I think everybody automatically assumed, as much as everyone wanted to be so happy that she was Indian representing a whole group of people, I feel like sometimes those girls are just as quick to judge and bash because of the affiliation. But
Yeah.
I mean, based on my experience, again, we're not deep into politics and we're not deep into religion, but we do have beliefs and we do feel a certain way. But I think that from our standpoint, even as a couple, not being Democrat or Republican or not having any type of view in that way, other than to be kind, I think that we can understand. I mean, they obviously are labeled because they are with the Republican Party, but
Right.
I don't think it's fair to judge her or say that he meant harm when he necessarily made that
Right.
statement.
Why don't we just clarify what exactly did he say? I mean, I don't have his statement written up right here.
Right. Like I was saying, he made a comment during an interview that he was hoping that eventually she would be moved into Christianity the way I don't know exactly what the comment was,
But in
but it
those
was
lines,
along the lines of he hoped she would be moved by Christianity. How do we want to say that?
his
Um,
beliefs, maybe.
right. But he was saying he was hoping that she would be moved by Christianity the way that he was moved. But if she didn't want to do that, she has free will, that God or the Bible or whatever he quoted states that there's free will. So what that told me was, it's just like if we flipped it and we removed the religious part from
Yeah.
it.
So let's play devil's advocate right now. I mean, I don't want to bash him or anyone. I mean, he's after all a human. So people do make statements and sometimes things might come off wrongly. Now, if I give you an analogy uh, in front of hundreds of people, I make a comment, I love my wife, but maybe one day she'll become skinny and otherwise I'm
I
just
think
fine.
that's a bad analogy, honey, because I'm a little voluptuous
No,
over
no,
here. Maybe we
I
should
never,
change.
I don't like skinny wives anyway. I love, I love my wife just the way she is.
It's a good
But
thing
what if it
because
was
I was fine till the sweets.
right? What if that comment was made in public? Like, how do you think his wife would have felt? I know it's not the same as religion and weight and all that, uh, but I
Right, but
feel
I
that
think
maybe he could have put it in a different way.
I think also it's the way that it's translated. Like we constantly say things can be lost in
Yeah,
translation
that's
because the
true.
way I look at it is from my side, it's like if you were not a citizen and I were to say and somebody were to ask me, how do you feel that you're a citizen but your husband's not a citizen? And I would say, well, I would hope that one day he'd want to become a citizen,
Right.
but I would never ask him to let go of his citizenship of his place of origin because I'm a citizen or because I'm from here. So I think that when people are not in that situation, it's very hard for
Right.
them to be able to understand or relate because, granted, one's religion and one is citizenship, they're both equally the same weight.
No, I think that's a perfectly good analogy there.
Yeah.
I think,
So I think even with us for a long time when you were here, everybody used to say, why don't you just apply for your citizenship based on your marriage?
right.
For a long time, you were like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that. And so that was exactly the struggle. And I would have never, ever said for you to do that unless it was something you felt you wanted to do was become a citizen. And that was the quickest way for us to do it. I think that it's just important that people realize that people need their own time and space to make those decisions. Those are big decisions that we were born with. I mean, you didn't choose your religion. I didn't choose my religion. I think that at some point in our lives, we just were raised that way, that's what we thought. I wouldn't even say was right, but that's what we felt was normal. And we just kind of gravitated to that even as adults. And when both you and I met, I don't think that even we ever thought religion would play any type of role in whether or not we loved each other or not. I don't think maybe that's why they have all these premarital classes that
Yeah.
you can figure
Just
out.
a quick tidbit there. Um, I became the citizen of United States on what day? On your birthday.
Oh, my birthday. Yeah. Which of our kids? Here's a friendly little question. Which one of our kids do you think was present for the citizenship? Everybody's going to say all of them, but that was not the case because
The one
Indians
was
value education. So
the one
we had kids in school, but which one?
was
You guys can
homeschooled.
put it in the comments. Which one you believe was at his father's citizenship? What do they call that?
Is it ceremony or
I don't remember. But basically, when he took his pledge for citizenship,
yeah?
which one of the kids do you guys think was there? And we'll tell you guys in the comments if you're right or not once we get a few.
I think if they overheard me speaking in the background, they probably will
Okay, we'll
figure that
stop
out.
because we don't want them to keep rewinding it, honey.
All right.
They have to know us to probably know
All
that.
right. Don't worry. Nobody is going to rewind me with my non-existing fans. Um, Maybe you have a lot of people want to listen to you.
Okay, so for those of you who may not be following this news and just clicked onto this video because the headline kind of intrigued you, just a little background. So, JD Vance, obviously born and raised in America, in Ohio, in a place where a lot of Americans would consider part of the Bible Belt. And this is a very conservative part of America where Christianity is kind of a big thing. It's something that you're brought up with, it's a part of your lifestyle. And then you have Usha Vance, in which
In which what she is born and raised in California, just like anyone else, like
right,
American. But
aside of being the American, her background is
well, her
what?
background is she's a Hindu, and I think based on what I saw, she's a very their family is like a Brahmin family, which is supposed to be a very belongs to a priest. Um,
Right, her background is Brahmin, but
yeah,
I guess the question is, I think even with her, it was a very similar bringing as
upbringing,
yours, that her parents were
right?
essentially Hindus, and I think
But
for them, it was more of a lifestyle, it was a way
right,
of life. I don't know how religious they were.
no, I think they probably are very religious because Brahmins typically are very religious. I'm not a Brahmin. There are different systems in Hinduism, but again, when somebody says that you're a Hindu, I don't know what makes me a Hindu. I never really thought about it. Maybe my dad would have been able to answer that, but it's just when we were, ever since we were a kid, we did all these rituals at home and did all these pujas, and we thought just doing that is what makes you a Hindu. But I'm not 100% sure if that's what makes you a Hindu because
Like, there's
some
not a definition, like, you wouldn't say that when you ever met with a pundit or a priest, he was like, you had to testify in some way or say something in some way that was like, this is what makes me a Hindu. Like, for example, people who believe that they are hardcore Christians believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for their sins, right? So when I was being raised to believe that there was this man that, did all these great things, but then had this suffrage and then he died on this cross. But then I never really explored the religion enough, but I still thought I'm a Christian because my parents raised me to believe that. But I would say, even in my 20s and 30s, I didn't even know what that meant or what my responsibility as a Christian was. And even I took confirmation. So some of it is our parents just push us in a way that this is the religion that we are. We just use it and say that we identify as it while growing up.
yeah, like even Hinduism, like I did read a few books in the past. The way it was explained in many of the books is that Hinduism, they say it's just a way of living. I mean, there's not just one specific thing. There's so many old scriptures, and there's so many things that it describes like you do good and what is right and what is wrong. But yeah, I never really looked specifically like, hey, if I worship Lord Ganesh, it makes me a Hindu. I don't know if that's what it is. I think we probably have to explore a little bit more if out of all our time that we
Yeah, and
have
I
on our
think
hand.
that there's a lot of different translations as to what people believe is worshiping, because some Hindus wake up every day and they bathe and they pray and they do those things, and that's their way of worshiping. But then there's some Hindus that honestly, every day they don't pray and they don't do all that stuff, but that faith is inside them. It's the way that they live, they feel, they breathe, they act, they behave. And I think that that's probably why we didn't have as much of an issue with it, because for us it wasn't a matter of like in our physical behaviors that we were Christian or Hindu. I think that it was in our core values and what we believe there. And I think because our values and morals remain the same, that's what gravitated us towards each other. We never defined it as religion, but in a lot of ways, religion is just that.
Right.
It's morals and values and how you choose to live your life. And, I think that it's important that people realize that whether you're religious or not, atheist, whatever you are, you have a way in which you live your life to a certain set of standards, morals, and values. And I think that in a lot of ways, that's probably what these two saw in
Right. I
college.
think one of the sacred books in Hinduism is Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna. Uh, I mean, it's again, I'm not the most knowledgeable person on this, but one of the things that he says is about karma yoga. Like he says, if you like do what you're supposed to do at that time, like in different stages in life, and as long as you do everything good, then I guess you'll achieve moksha or nirvana. I don't know all these technical words, but so that's how I look at it. Anything that I do good. I mean, if I mean, pretty much everyone knows before they do something if it's right or wrong. As long as your gut tells you that what you're doing is right, I think just do it. And if you know you're doing something wrong, then stop doing the wrong thing. I think that's
Mhm.
how we look at it. I will always tell my kids, right? There's always choices in your life, right choice and wrong choice. I mean, sometimes the right choice might take you in a long path, and the wrong choice might get you shortcuts. I tell them, so you have the option to either go the right way or the wrong way. So it's up to them to make the decision. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell them ever since they were kids.
Mm.
Like there were so many situations I tell even Bradley, hey, so tell me which one would you choose? Like you have this way to go, this way to go. So hopefully one day they'll think
Something will
about,
click.
yeah,
Yeah. So again, I think that for us, like I said before, when Usha and JD probably met in college, they weren't even thinking about these things. Like these things are so deep on such a different level that I don't think any couple who are just finding a friendship and they're thinking, hey, we really like each other and really get along. It's really hard for people, anybody who is falling in love to say, okay, well, let's have a little talk about this. I mean, even for us, I jokingly say, like, we did have that conversation as far as we didn't talk about religion or anything like that. But I told you at that time I wanted 10 kids. And you were like, sure. And looking back on it now, you agreed to that because you were falling for me, but you would have never allowed us
yeah.
you would have never allowed us to
I
have
mean,
10
nobody
kids.
is gonna like you fall in love with somebody, and then you're not gonna think, okay, she's a Christian, so I'm gonna fall in love with her. She's a Hindu, so I can fall in love with her. I don't think you can control those feelings. I
Right.
think it's
Perhaps
beyond.
maybe if you're pretty devout and like I I know that we had this discussion earlier that I feel if you are very solid in your faith, if you are a devout Hindu, a devout Christian, most likely that sets such a precedence in your life. You're going to be looking for someone who is in a similar way
Right.
because you want them to believe that. And I think when that takes a priority in your life personally before you meet somebody, you might screen in that way. But
Yeah, I
I
mean
don't
that's
think
all like pre-planned. I don't know. You belong to a certain groups where they all have same beliefs and all that. Yeah, I'm sure that could probably happen, but then you're shielding away from the rest of the world. I mean, you can never control who you're going to fall in love with. Like,
right,
y-
I think our biggest I think before you and I had a problem with it, I think it was our kids. Our kids caused those questions to be ignited, and I think that it wasn't even I don't know, maybe your mom might have brought that up earlier, but I feel like my mom didn't even mention any of that until we already had kids.
right?
Like
She talked about
when we
baptizing
first
them.
and then they're like, are you gonna christen them?"
Yeah,
And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And, then she started going on like, "I really want my grandkids christened." And then she had approached you about it. And you were never like, "Absolutely not." But it was probably in that moment that we were like, "Oh, this wasn't even something that mattered either way to us, but now this has gotten bigger because it's like, do we honor our parents? Doesn't really matter to me. Doesn't like I don't feel like you need to be anointed in any way by any human being soul for God to say you're welcome to be here. I so for me, I don't think I ever bought into that part of like things had to be done here on heavenly earth in order for our kids to be accepted in one faith or another. And I think that was more the problem. The more of the problem was that stigmatism and that way of thinking that one religion is the right religion. And I think for you and I, we have always been open to the fact that we feel our kids should be God fearing.
You think anything has or would have changed if we had taken a different path in terms of religion for our kids
Like
right now?
attended Sunday school every day. You mean every
Any
Sunday,
the
or went to
outcome
church, had a call. I
or
don't
different
know.
outcome maybe?
I think that the outcome would still be the same. I think that people are born with a certain type of character about them, and that grows as they get older. And I'd like to think that the only thing that would have changed would be the friend circle. And that friend circle, I feel like it didn't become really influential until the later part of high school
Yeah.
and in college. And so I don't think it would have changed anything. I mean, Brittany taught
Sunday
Sunday
school.
school and now she's like atheist. So I
Yeah.
don't think it really changes anything. I think Bradley, for example, he enjoys the puja aspects. He enjoys the learning part of that. I don't think that Bradley identifies as being Hindu, but he likes to take place in all those things. We've also attended church. And so the kids know like formalities, how they should behave places, but they don't have to feel like they have to go there to be with God or here to be with God. I think a lot of that as kids, we were doing it as a way to respect our parents more than it was for us. I think we just always preached into our kids that they should be good people, that they should not even so much as God fearing. We never wanted to put a face to that, but we wanted our kids to believe that when we're done here, whatever our purpose is here, that this isn't the end. I think that for people to think that this is the absolute end is like literally atheist, no faith. But I think we want our kids to believe that wherever they're going after this life,
Right.
there's
I think
something.
no matter what religion, I think every religion, pretty much the end goal for them is the same, just doing good, right? No religion tells you to do bad things. I went to a Catholic school when I was a kid. I mean, everybody in India, they go to Catholic private school, most of them. Um, but I never converted to Christianity, or they never pushed any Christianity stuff on us when we went to school. But I still remember one of my teachers, he said, hey, just imagine there's a pond in a forest, and there would be multiple paths to get to that pond. A horse could come in a one direction, and a different horse will comes from a different direction, and they all drink from the same pond. The paths taken were different, but ultimately they are drinking the same water. So I think that's a good analogy for religion. I mean, no matter what path you take, the ultimate goal, I think it's still the same. I think that's my philosophy.
Right. And I think that I think that as our kids grew up, that was kind of always your philosophy. That was the way you explained it to them. And I think I was just always on board with it. I never questioned our way of raising kids. I probably didn't question what we were doing with our kids religiously until Dr. Laura when I called her and she hung up on me.
Oh man.
I was hiding in the closet because your parents wanted
So
Bradley's head shaved.
she was, I think I still remember, I think she was upset, or she just hung up on you because you decided to marry a man outside your faith.
Yes, she said when I had asked her if I was morally obligated to allow our son's head to be shaved at Tirupati, she hung up on me after. She said, I'm sorry you made that choice for them. And
Yeah, I still
that
can't.
hurt because in that moment, I allowed a person who has no anointing from anybody to allow me to doubt myself or our relationship. And I think that that was in that moment, I had a lot of doubt as to, did we not think this through? Were we selfish because we put our love before what we were going to put our unborn kids into? And then I think it was at that point, you and I decided that we were going to parent our children based on what we wanted, not what our parents wanted. That was probably for us the first real break in, do we respect our parents or do we respect our relationship. And that was a hard one. I think that was a
Yeah,
hard
I think
one
on the
for us
side
both.
note, Dr. Laura, I'm sure she gives a lot of opinions. Not everything is perfect, but I think she also does have some good advice for other people, not
Yeah.
us, not
Yeah.
just us.
Like I said, you have to be in this situation in order to advise on it. And maybe it was a bad idea for me to put her in that situation and expect her to give me advice that worked when you had me listening to her for a while. We kind of knew her
No,
opinions on it.
I was
I
listening
wasn't
to her.
asking her for anything but if I was
I used to
morally
I used to
obligated.
listen to her even before I met you, as just as a time pass. When I first came to the country, I thought it was funny the type of issues that people call the radio station.
Like they couldn't figure it out for
Right.
themselves. And I
Yeah.
thought ours was valid, but yeah, I
Yeah.
got hung up on.
Yeah.
Not the first, wasn't the last.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it was a matter of um, expecting our kids not to necessarily ever pick a religion, but just to pick goodness.
Right.
I think that's all we really would hope for
Yeah, I mean, we
anybody.
never really pushed them to go to a temple or push them to go to church, and we listened to a lot actually for Joel Osteen on XM radio. We used to listen to him a lot. Like we used to listen to him so much that even our kids actually memorized
His sermon.
his sermon.
Yeah. And I
So
think that it's important to let our kids, I mean, as the world is evolving and people are opening up and becoming more open-minded in a lot of ways, it's important for them to allow their kids to choose a path. I think it's important as parents that we guide them to
right,
not do bad, not do wrong. But I think as parents, it's equally important that we introduce them to all things. Because if we don't introduce them, somebody else will. And I really think that that's where things become radicalized within people is
yeah,
they get introduced in the wrong ways, and that kind of manifests into something else that could have been easily prevented if the rest of us were just good people and you know
yeah.
open minded.
I think we did our best, whatever we could, last 20, 25 years. Um, but I think it's ultimately up to the kids. I mean, I'm sure we can share this in a future episode how things don't work out the way they're
Yeah.
supposed to all the time. But I feel like we did our best.
So are there some things that maybe from us going through this and now having adult kids, our last one's 9, but our kids are out there, they're adulting and
You're
um
right. But the last one, our 9-year-old, I think he asks sometimes the most profound questions that we would have never imagined.
right.
I think that's how you started that series, right?
Right. So I think he does. He asks some pretty deep questions, and I used to always find your dad interesting because he was always in like a very philosophical way. Your dad was in a way he was obsessed with philosophy,
Right.
and I think Ishan's like that little born soul that probably somehow or another that energy of your dad's being very philosoph having such philosophy about him and being philosophically driven, Ishan just lives on. And I feel like some of the questions that he asks, like my next book on that is going to be, um, Daddy, where does God get our skins? Because that's a question that he asked in the car. I don't even know if he knows what God necessarily is, but he was just curious how we are born and given our skins. Like, why are our skins all different colors? And it was just such an innocent question that I did start this book series because as we are blending, as we are having interracial children and biracial children and just mixed kids all over the world, these questions are important. And it's not just important to know like maybe why we were born into whatever we were born into, but why am I white and why are you not white? Why am I, one way and why are you one way? And so Ishan as a child sees those questions as not questions, but like he just needs the knowledge. And so that next book is going to be really cute because that was a conversation that the two of you had, and it's really where religion hits science without really going into the religious aspect of it. So I'm excited about that one. But as far as like our kids, what would you say to parents out there who people are just getting married or they're pregnant or they are, they're raising kids and religion is now something with this topic being in the news. They're like, that makes sense. I mean, this is literally something that couples could literally divorce over.
Yeah. No, no, I totally agree. I think these are some of really important questions I think they should ask themselves. Initially, when you're young, you won't really think about these things. You're not very spiritual, but as you get older, you tend to get interested in getting more spiritual and then start focusing on all these things. And then that's when these questions arise. uh, Even though you're not like, at least for me, even though I never really paid so much attention to what my parents did, pujas and all that stuff, but as you get older, you start remembering things, and then you think that maybe you're supposed to do those things. Maybe if you do those things, maybe something good is going to happen, and then you slightly think that maybe we should try to implement some of these things. But then your other half, your spouse, she's from a totally different background, and she's not used to any of these things, so she'd be confused. And what if she also starts thinking the same way that you're thinking, and she wants to start incorporating some of her beliefs and the way she grew up? Again, these things will never come up when you're young.
Right. And then
Yeah,
they spark when something like this happens,
right,
it all of a sudden becomes the topic of conversation. And you're like, there's some validity to that.
right,
And like I said, even we had situations where your mom's like introducing one thing and it has nothing to do with us. Your mom introduces something, then my mom wants to introduce something, or my mom introduces something. And now your
right,
mom's like, well, I don't want them to know about Easter. And now they don't know about Diwali or Dasara or whatever. And then something that wasn't an issue for us now is like, okay, well, we have to be fair. And then I think that that's really how it came to be. But wouldn't you say that it's fair to say that probably we have just raised our kids with all the traditions that we were
yeah.
raised
I think
with?
on at least our side, I think to be fair on both sides, we do celebrate Christmas and Easter and all this stuff, Thanksgiving, even though it's not religious stuff. We also have Diwali, and then we used to do Rakhi, some of these Indian cultural festivals
Right. And
we
I
still
think
do.
that was what it was for us. It
Right,
wasn't that we were celebrating the religiousness behind
right,
Easter, but the cultural aspect
correct,
of it. So I think that being able to define what you were raised with, like if you were raised having Easter and going to church on Palm Sunday and being able to like adapt that part, and you haven't done that throughout your whole relationship together, and then you guys have kids and it's like, oh, all of a sudden we have to go to church on Sunday, that's going to be a problem.
right.
But if that's something that you both were doing in your relationship, it becomes a natural progression. And I think even for us, like our kids went to Bible school during the summers, but again, that was not our push. That was my mom wanting all of her grandkids to go. So all the grandkids stayed
Right, but
at.
I don't think we had any problem doing that, because I feel like Bible school, they teach them good stories, they learn new things, morals and all that, which unfortunately I don't think they teach them in school anymore.
Right, right.
So I'm perfectly fine with it. But I think for new couples, like Indian American couples, especially when they're coming from two different religions, especially if they're very strong in their religious background, then these are some of those questions that probably like they have to answer.
Right.
Um,
And I think we're seeing it phase out. Like the
Mm.
the problem also resides in us having done these weddings. We see that clients, a lot of our couples aren't familiar with the religion at all. Like they did whatever was in the motion of doing it with their parents growing up or the family or whatever. But a lot of them, now that they've moved out of the house and they've been living on their own for like a decade or more,
Right.
they're not doing it. So then when they all of a sudden get engaged or married, that religious parent comes back out again
And it's a
with
funny,
full vengeance
the
that
funny thing is people ask Amy about rituals, wedding
yes.
rituals, and she knows more than the Indian girls who are born and raised here. I mean,
No,
even though they're
and I wouldn't say that I know more than them, but
most, at
there's
least,
a lot of our clients, if we had to compare them to our clients, the thing that I get told over and over again during our calls is, Amy, you're more Indian than me, or you know way more than I do. Or I'll say something and they're like, yeah, we haven't heard of that. Like with Telugu girls, it's like a given that they're gonna have that Gauri Puja. But most of them are like, Amy, they haven't mentioned anything to me. And then I'm like, well, you need to find out before you get steamrolled by
right,
your mom, because those are things that they, our parents don't think that we need to be told.
right,
They just have raised us our whole lives to believe we're going to do what they tell us to do, especially in that area. That why would this be any different? It's almost like as parents, it's not registered that we're full grown adults and we don't have to do what they tell us to do. Now, if it's like that flip side of the coin, right? As parents, now we're like, if you're living with us and we're providing for you after you finish college or 18, that is that is out of the generosity and the kindness of our hearts. And I think that that flips because kids can easily say, well, look, now if I do something that you're asking me to as my parent, I'm doing it out of my love and respect for you. Not generosity, but love and respect for you. I want to consider this. And that's where we're seeing that these boundaries are having to come in play because these kids are being born and raised here, or at least raised here a good amount of their lives, that they're just as American as everybody else. So I think that um, that's where I brought in this whole rituals and reflections book, because it's very easy to quickly lose ourselves in the process of letting our parents go from parenting us to becoming adults and expecting them to still have that power over what our vision looks like when it comes to our marriage.
Yeah, I think the bottom line, at least for this section, I think we did pretty good balancing both your side and my side,
Parenting and faith, you
parenting
mean?
and faith and all that, like the festivals and then holidays and all that, which we did not push one side more than the other side. But although our youngest is petrified when somebody wants to put kumkum on him,
He thinks that it's an indigenous
right?
sacrifice.
He's scared. So, but
Oh,
again, I think it's just exposure.
right.
It's not other kids. I feel like we were more active going
Even
out to the temples and
even
all.
going to India, like our kids,
Yeah,
and having your dad there all the time, he always wore that tilak. So it was something that it was commonplace for them.
right,
But then to go for Ishan especially with like COVID and all that
right.
stuff, and not really socializing him, not to compare our kid to a puppy or anything, but like they tell you socialize your puppy early, so that it gets along with everybody. But Ishan out of everybody was probably a little bit more sheltered in that way because of COVID and starting school late and all that stuff. But like you said, it's all about just allowing them to be integrated into society more or less.
So, what do you think that we have to offer to our listeners at the end of this episode? What do you think they should take away from it?
Um, I think that when I started this whole podcast, right, part of it was there's so much negativity on the internet. And if you want to find somebody gossiping about somebody, I think that there's plenty of places to find it. But I think for this podcast, I always wanted to be able to bring something positive and give something for people to think about, and maybe just step back and instead of adding to that negativity, think a little bit about maybe instead of judging other people and what it is that they're doing wrong, maybe look towards your inner self and think about what you could fix or what you could broaden about yourself that would allow you to see things in a more neutral, unbiased way rather than, unfortunately for Usha, she does or doesn't feel like she's part of this political party. And her husband is in a position where she is being a wife and she's not going to speak out. And who knows, one day it will be in her autobiography how she really felt about this. But that's not going to be for today, Usha. That's for another day. But I don't think that we should, I guess I lose respect on a level for people when I feel like we forget that we're human. We forget that she's a mom and he's a dad, and people just post vomit all over the internet about what it is that they think or feel, and they have kids.
Right, small kids.
And
Like,
their
can you
kids are going to
imagine?
one day grow up and read this stuff.
Right.
And just because somebody doesn't believe in what you believe in, or somebody doesn't, necessarily do things the way you would do it, it doesn't make you wrong, but it doesn't make them wrong either. And so I think that's where the whole term is, that you just got to agree to disagree. But that in that agreeing to disagree shouldn't be hate either. So I think I would like to just look at it and tell people out there, especially our Indian American couples, Indo-American couples, I think I want them to remember to always put their relationship first. I want them to always think what is in their best interest and their kids, and just try to mute the noise, because I think noise can sometimes be the worst thing that we can take in. I think for you and I, one of the things that we've always practiced with our kids is we never talk about this stuff or argue about anything or disagree on anything in front of them. It's always something we save later for private discussion, whether it's I could have handled something better, or you could have handled something better. And I think that that's the takeaway from this. It's to get in front of things before you guys get to the point where you need to be upset about it or, doubt. Get in front of it, have the open conversations. This is maybe where those date nights come into play.
Yeah, yep. No, I completely agree. And also, just to give you an example, I mean, we've done different types of photography and all that, and one of them is boudoirs, right? So we always used to say, don't post or take pictures that one day when your kids go back and look, that you'll be ashamed of. So
Right.
we did everything very tasteful. So you got to think the future. So anything that you do is going to be recorded for future, and you should never be ashamed of
Right,
what your
especially
kids say.
you don't know what that marriage is gonna hold in 10,
Yeah,
15, 20 years when
right,
you do these boudoir photographs and
right,
you wanna give them to your significant other. We have learned that they're a gift
right,
and they can do what they want with them later. And
right,
so I think for us, it's if you would be okay with your kids looking at a Victoria's Secret magazine that was laid on the table and that is not something that you would feel to be taboo, then that's okay. And I
right,
think that a lot we had boundaries too, but I think a lot of what we did was stuff that we looked at it as if our daughter was taking pictures like that,
right.
what would those limits and what would those boundaries be? And I think it holds true to this as
That's
well.
just a rule of thumb. I mean, just in a general way. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. And I think if I flip that to myself, my mom always said, "Don't don't say something that you can't take back." She would always try to remind us that we should think before we speak, and it's very hard for a lot of people to do. But if you don't have nothing to say, that's nice. Just don't say anything at
right.
all.
I think that will hold true no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? You're in a interracial relationship, or
Do you think that's the faith we raised our kids with? Maybe that was the religion.
yeah,
Maybe that was the religion.
yeah. I don't know what they would answer if somebody asked them that question.
So here we are. We are talking on this topic, and now we're photographers of all religions and all faiths and all
Right.
races. And I think that part of that probably plays a big role in how we view life. I wouldn't say that if we went back and we looked at ourselves when we first met it, like, when I was 19, I wouldn't say I'm the same person. Definitely with that maturity has come, knowledge and experience and just seeing there's things that I've seen taking place in the United States that I didn't even know happened as far as like different religions. I think my mind was so narrow-minded. And now when I look at it and we're photographing these weddings and we're just watching and witnessing this all taking place, it I think we're less judgy because
Right. No,
we're
I think
broader minded.
photographing these weddings, different religions, and all that, I think the way we take pictures is way beyond the religion, like the customs and traditions and rituals that they do, right? We we focus something more than that, the family and the
Right.
parents and the emotions between the couples and all that. So at that point, all this stuff kind of becomes mute. But obviously, we do have to cover when we photograph, we do cover all those
Right. The significance of the
aspects.
details and
Right.
things that are happening because they do have meaning behind it. But I think
Right.
that even as photographers, it's just made us look at life a little more detailed than we've
Yes.
ever had to look at it before. And I think for the most part, when I look back and I say again, our job is not to judge, but to witness. And when we take these pictures, I think it's important that when our clients see these pictures, that in some way it evokes something in them that makes them feel something. And I think as photographers, that's probably why we've been doing this for so long.
Right. All right. So why don't you talk about why you brought me onto this Saul? You started this. This is your baby. Um,
Um, my baby. I don't want any more babies, but yes, I think that it's important that people see you. I think that people need to realize that you are part of this conversation we call life. And I think, why Saul is so important to me is I think that there were just so many years that you and I kept quiet. There were things that we wanted to post it and wanted to share, but then we again worry about like how would that affect your dad or what would he think? I mean, your mom still doesn't know that we do or did boudoir photography. You didn't even want to be the face to that. I was always the face to it. But I think like now that times are changing and people need more information and things are becoming way more normalized. Like we have photographed more Indian-American couples. Like I'm excited about that because we are seeing how everybody is finding their own way to kind of personalize and make their weddings their own. And I think that the more we talk about there's not a right way or a wrong way to do like an Indian Hindu ceremony or an Indian Hindu Christian ceremony or whatever, like I feel like we can be that bridge.
Right.
And yes, while I can talk and can put all those things out, I think that it's important that they hear you speak and know that I don't just talk about this imaginary person on Srinu.
Yep. No, I agree. I'll try to be as active as possible because you're pushing me out of my tiny little box.
Would you rather us film this in the wood shop?
Jesus Christ was a carpenter.
Sweet. Yes, we'll get you a pair of shoes, sandals.
Just don't ask me to carry my cross. I don't know if that's crossing boundaries.
It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want. So there you have it. What are some, we tried to keep notes to like stay on task, and this will get better as we work on our camera chemistry together. Obviously, shooting weddings, it's such a natural aspect for us, but we do not like being in front of this camera. I think we'd rather be behind it.
I think we should also start sharing a little bit of your cooking. I think people would really enjoy.
I don't know. You can put that in the comments. If you want me to show you how I cook food, and that's something you would want to be part of the YouTube channel, you can always let us know. We'll consider another playlist. I personally don't know how to cook a lot of American food because I met Srinu when I was 19 and I was the youngest in my house. So my mom and my sister and everybody cooked, but I was outside playing. They called me in for dinner, but my mother-in-law had no choice. I had to sit in the kitchen during all my pregnancies and watch her cook because that was her one request, was to make sure that her son got to have a taste of home, even though he no longer lived there.
No, but you really, really enjoy cooking, like especially Indian food. You do all these experiments, like trying out all these different spices.
My cooking is definitely
evolved.
Indo-American.
Indo-American. Yeah.
But if you guys are interested, you can always drop me some
Right.
comments below. We can make that a playlist.
No, definitely. I think not only
if
that,
there's interest for it.
you also enjoy doing like DIY stuff. So
No, I
maybe
like giving you orders. Like I would like to order I'd like to order a stool today, and then you fulfilling that order and bringing it to
as
me
long
to
as
paint.
I get to buy a tool to build that stool, I'm fine with it.
It's very costly. I think I'll just go to IKEA.
No, it's gonna fall apart.
Okay, so
All right.
there we have it. What are some of the things that we're going to talk about since this is obviously our first podcast together? There's some things that are happening new with ourselves and things that we want to share with everybody in terms of we are the Regetis, we are photographers as the Regetis, our family is the Regetis, and that's how people know us. If we have shot your wedding, we are the Regetis. But we introduced this year SAWL, and SAWL is really South Asian Wedded Life. This is meant to be for anybody, whether you are dating, whether you are engaged, whether you are married, whether you are having a baby, whether you have kids, whether you are parenting adult children, or you are parents of couples that are mixed, or, we get a lot of comments from parents, Indians, who are like, they're so American and they don't listen to anything that we say. This is for you. Like, it's to help you better communicate, better understand, better participate, and better accept the way that life is today compared to maybe how it was at the 50s. I think that my mom is a better person because I found you and married you. I think that my family are better people because we've really adapted to accepting both ways of life. And I think that we've done that beautifully. And I'm hoping that through SAWL, through going to SAWL.life and joining the Facebook community and starting engagement there and just asking the questions, start, comment, share, it will really allow people to see how everybody's doing things differently. There's no one set way. And so with SAWL, it has literally, there's so many offshoots because not only is SAWL the representing on that, but the Regetis are Saul and Saul is Regetis. Saul has just went from being who we are as the Regetis to the podcast. And then it went from there to being, I just started having fun with it with the puzzle books. And then Rituals and Reflections, which is the bride's self-reflection before she gets into planning mode. So in no ways is it meant to be a planner or to replace a planner. It's really meant to allow you to get into your head and think about all these things that we normally wouldn't think of before falling in love, that we can say, I'm not going to lose myself in that. I still want to keep who and what I am, but how can we do this as a couple? And so, after writing that, and then you telling me that you thought it was a really valuable resource, we've moved into now we are about to release Rendered.
You know. All right. So before we close, I have a question for you.
Yeah. What is it?
What do you call milk without turmeric? What do you call milk without turmeric?
Milk.
Hmm.
You call it milk, honey.
Yeah, but if
Because if
there's
it
no
was
turmeric,
milk with turmeric, it's turmeric milk.
no. If there's no turmeric in that milk, it is unhealthy. You like that, didn't you?
Babe. Okay. If today's conversation made you guys think, breathe, or love any differently, that's what we hope for. We absolutely know that that was a lot. So whether you pray with folded hands or clasped ones, what matters most is that you guys pray together. Love isn't about matching beliefs. It's about mutual respect. And that's something we all can learn from. So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and stay close, because here at South Asian Wedded Life, the conversation never ends. It's only going to deepen.